In 1939 or 40, whenever it was, I joined the Royal Air Force because I felt in my conscience that I had to make some contribution towards the World War. And I felt that the least I could do, at least, was to join up and take my orders from superior people and do what I was told to do, which I did. My recruitment was in north of Manchester. Can't remember the actual name of the place, but it was north of Manchester, where I was recruited and told that, look, you're a young man, you're going to join the Royal Air Force, you understand what you're doing? And I said, yes, of course I do. I want to make a contribution to the war effort as part of my conscience, my contribution as a good citizen to do something towards the war effort. We used to be marching up and down for the first 6 weeks, doing a discipline to bring you into line, to understand what standing to attention meant and how you had to be respectful to your superior officers, which I was. I enjoyed it. I realized what I was doing, and I realized that what I was doing was going to eventually go towards the war effort of our country, and I was very proud of that. It was considered that you had to have a trade. I didn't have a trade because I was a more office-minded bloke, and I didn't have a trade, so it was decided that, well, we've got to do something with Francis to bring him into line with discipline and to give him a trade. So they decided to give me a trade, and I just went along with them, and I learnt my trade. What I was told to do, I knew that it was going towards the war effort, and that as a good citizen, I wanted to make sure that I was making a proper contribution. So I went into it wholeheartedly and learnt everything I was told about discipline and about every aspect of the job. I had a responsibility to learn as much as I could for the sake of the country. I used to love the Spitfire. It was a unique aircraft, as you know, one-seater. But I always remember that you used to have to, the pilot had to rev up the engine at a tremendous speed on the ground to make sure that everything was working, to make sure that it didn't take off. We used to sit on the tailplane to keep it down and just hold our breath and put our hand over our mouths because it was a tremendous windscreen that we had to put up with. I did that many times. What I enjoyed was the esprit de corps with my comrades. Now that was something that I really enjoyed, and I felt it was very important to mix with people and to learn from them. The Spitfire was only a one-seater, so you couldn't go up in that. But we used to be, for experience of flying, we used to go up in this other aircraft which had 2 seats, the pilot and the passenger. So I went up in that many times. I remember going up for the first time. It was the biggest thrill of my life to think that I was taken off from Earth, from the ground. It was a great thrill. It was a bit frightening. Took my breath away. I had to hold on tight, but I was glad to get back down. But I enjoyed it. It was a great experience. But if anything, the Hurricane was a better equipped aircraft. It obviously had used a lot of the experience from the Spitfire, but it made it a better aircraft. So the Hurricane was, in my book, the #1 aircraft. Yeah, when I worked on the Hurricane, we used to work in the middle part of it behind the engine. We take the covers off and get at the engine itself. And we had a definite format and a book to tell us what to look for, and we looked for all the fundamental things to make sure that it was working 100% before we put the covers back on, which is what we did out of responsibility to the people who were going to fly in it in the future, so that they would be as safe as possible, and I would be responsible for their safety. Well, it was about 6 aircraft that I can remember, 6 raids, and we used to have our dugouts, and we used to keep under them in case of shrapnel and just hope that we were going to come through it unmarked, which fortunately God was looking after me, and I did come out of it unmarked. But it was a daunting experience that I didn't recommend, but I knew that for the sake of our country I had to do it and put up with it, and I did it, and I was lucky enough to survive it. Well, I remember that the aircraft coming over, and I was thinking, my God, this is a test of my nerve to see if I'm going to be lucky to get through this. And of course, God was good looking after me, and I did get through it. But it was a daunting experience. I didn't recommend, but I knew I had to do it, and I had to face up to it. So I did it, and I did it with a lot of strength to make sure that I was doing my duty. There was a couple of my friends who were big pals of mine, broke my heart, and they were killed. And I don't think I've ever got over it, really, because they were very close to me. And I just thanked my God that I was lucky enough to escape and to come through it unmarked. But it was a daunting time and a very tough time. Well, I just picked up my duties that I knew I had to do, and I was very interested in the work I was doing because I was sent to near Birmingham to have a lot of experience on aircraft, and I enjoyed that very much. It was very exacting, and I had to really get my head down to it, but I survived it, and it made me a better aircraftman when I came back for the good of the country. One time I came home on annual leave, and I had to I'd arrive in Swansea High Street Station in the middle of an air raid. And though I'd experienced some of it when I was away on duty in the Air Force, I wasn't completely innocent of the noise and the danger that you were going to face. But I survived it, and I knew that I had to get from the station to our place, our shop in Goat Street near Ben Evans, which at that time was blitzed and was brought to the ground. So I experienced all that, and I've been very thankful that I've got through it unblemished. I've been very lucky that I've survived. Well, I came down through Orchard Street, and I knew that there was danger everywhere, and I would be ready to duck under a cover when you could hear the bombers overhead. And and there were some very near misses, bombs near us, but I was lucky enough to survive. And I always thank God that I was singled out as one that was going to survive. So I'm very grateful for that. Well, I was very upset and very distressed. It took a lot out of me, and I thought, I can't believe this. I can't believe that my home is in ruins on the ground. But I knew that I had to face up to it and start a new phase of my life with the determination that if we're going to win this war, you've got to be tough. So I tried to toughen myself up to realize the responsibility that I and my comrades had to face up to the problems that we were going to face. And we did, successfully. Well, they couldn't believe that I walked in like that. I said, good God, Francis, we never expected to see that you got through all this. I said, no, neither did I. It was a close miss. But I was very grateful that I was in a safe house, and I was very glad that God had looked after me. Well, I was home for a 7-day leave, and there were blitz, air raids and so on. So we would be out, hopefully trying to have a good time because to make the most of our stay. But all of a sudden we could hear the warning overhead and the bombers. So we would take for cover where there was places that you knew you could go to. And we would just get in there and wait until the bombing finished and be lucky enough to be alive. Well, the people at Swansea couldn't believe that they were seeing me. And they said, good God, Francis, we didn't think that you'd survived this far. And I said, well, I've been lucky. God has looked after me, and I've been very lucky. And I'm very pleased to see you people, that you are still alive. And whilst we were there was an air raid, and we all had to duck for cover, but they had places that they could go undercover to save them from the shrapnel and all the rest of it. So we survived it. It was an experience. It was a daunting experience, but we survived it. Yes, a couple of my friends were killed, and I was very close to them, and I broke my heart. I couldn't believe it. I cried because I lost some good friends, but I was lucky enough to thank God that I had survived with my family for the future, like we're experiencing now. We are very lucky, all of us, that we got through it. I was stationed up in Shropshire, and near a place called Ellesmere, and I saw these girls, and I saw this one girl in particular, and I fancied her, and I fell for her. And I had the damn cheek to go over and ask her, do you mind if I speak to you? And she said, no. So I said, well, can I take you out for a drink? I said, yeah, of course you can. I said, I like you. She said, well, I seem to like you as well. So that was the start of a good friendship. And that was my life. Early 1940. And I realized that having met this lovely girl, that I had to make it legal by getting married. So I spoke to my family and my friends, and they all mustered up, and they said, well, we've got to arrange a ceremony in church for you to get married legally, so that you're going to be officially married. So we went through with it, and it was a great day. It's a day I'll never forget. I'm very proud of it. We arrived at St. David's Church in Swansea, and we knew our way there and how to get in and so on, and we had a great welcome. And it was a bit of an experience for me to think that I was going to be blessed by the church, which I believed in. And I was very grateful that the church was looking after me. So it was a great day. After I got married, I had to go back to the services, and it was very strange, and I was very upset. I think I cried a bit with my wife then. But we knew that we were going to put our faith in God, that He would get us through it, and He did get us through it. You'd be geared up for your life in the Air Force and the bombing, and all of a sudden you were told that it's all over, the bombing's over, you're free, we can forget about bombs, and it took a long time to adjust to that way of life. Although I was grateful for it, it did take a long time to realize that you were going to be protected. The day came when I was demobbed, and I couldn't believe that I was handing in my uniform and given a civvy suit, which was too big for me. I looked a bit lanky in it, but I suppose I was very lucky to have a suit on after all that days in uniform. And when my family saw me, they put their arms around me and they said, oh, God, it's lovely to see you, but you look a bloody wreck in that suit. We'll have to get it altered. I feel that I've been very lucky, and God has looked after me, and I appreciate that. And all the people around me have been very kind, and I still continue to enjoy their company, and hopefully we will all grow old together and have a lot of experience together in our lives, and look back at this as part of our life and say, weren't we lucky that we got through it together? I'm a pianist. I love playing the piano, and I would love the privilege of playing for you guys now.